what picture does the Bible give of somebody who is an elder? The very first place that you see elders in the Bible that are in relation to God's people, the Hebrews, the Israelites, whatever you want to call them, the Jews, they pop up in the second book of the book of Exodus. And if you guys know the Exodus story, it's God's people were enslaved in Egypt for 400 years. You guys might know that. And God did not like that. He does not like slavery. He does not like the enslavement of his people, especially for how long they were enslaved for. And God found a guy named Moses. We know Moses. We've heard this story before. And he put him alongside of his brother, and he said that he wanted to take God's people, the ones that were enslaved, remove them from Egypt, and put them in a new land. And the reason that God gathered together them, and specifically the elders, is because the elders have influence. And they don't have influence because they have a lot of money or they're successful. It doesn't mention that. They have influence because they're consistent. They don't waver on what's going on in their life. They have lived through a lot of life. They know what's on the other side of pain. So what God did as the people started to kind of get frustrated is he gathered 70 men of the elders of Israel. So out of 2 million plus, he gathered 70 of them. And God appointed these men to take some of the burdens of Moses. So he didn't have to address every single person individually or every single people group individually, but he could spread not his own words, not Moses' words, but he could spread God's words as fast as possible to make sure all 2 million people were directed towards what? Not frustration, but towards God. So up to this point, elders were men who have lived, they experienced life, they stayed faithful, they had influence, and they had the ability to receive God's word and tell people what that word was and encourage them to follow that word. In the modern day, what does that sound like? It sounds like a pastor, right? It sounds like a preacher. Of an individual that just prays, reads this word, and then goes in front of people and says, hey, we should follow this word. That's all it sounds like. It sounds like a minister, a shepherd. If you've been to a different church, a bishop. Some people like to use the word reverend. And it sounds like a coincidence here. Like, why are elders and pastors? I thought that they were different for all of this time. Like, I've known some pastors, I've known some elders, but it's not a coincidence. This is God's plan for not only leading his people, but it has been his plan since the beginning to lead his church.